Welcome to the February 8th regular council meeting, East Lansing City Council. I'll look for a roll call.
Councilmember Babcock.
Present.
Councilmember Brookover.
Here.
Councilmember Watson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gregg.
Here.
Mayor Bacon.
Present. Next, I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I'll look to make one amendment to the agenda. I'm going to move item, approve resolution acknowledging Black History Month. I'm going to move that to item 4.1 and hear from DE&I Director Elaine Hardy. Do I need a new motion?
I think your motioner needs to accept your.
Okay.
I accept it.
Motion accepted. Look for a new second, correct?
The second also needs to accept it.
Okay,
Is that you?
second. Yes, I accept it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you're good.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next up, all written communication received by council or posted on the online packet. That's all written communication received before 4 p.m.
Do we want to approve the minutes?
Oh, I'm sorry. Having some tech trouble.
If you do, I move it.
All right.
I'll second.
All right. Let me call it out. Motion to approve the minutes, regular council meeting, January 25th, 2022. Do it one more time, just for,
I'm sorry, what?
one more time for ceremony.
Oh, so moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilperson Brookover, second by Councilperson Babcock. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. On to item 2.1. Written communication received by council or posted on the online agenda packet. This is all communication received before 4 p.m. Next up, communication from the audience. If we have any communication in person, please fill out the blue form with your information and keep your comments to 5 minutes, and the clock will be posted on the screen. Any in-person comments? Anyone in the online queue?
We currently have 2 callers on the line. Phone number ending in 678. You are now welcome to address the council. You may need to hit star. Oh, there you are.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Miller, and I'm with RCG Ventures in Atlanta, and we submitted a letter dated January 27th to Mr. Menser, which I assume that you have in your written communication package. And so RCG Ventures and Stein Investment Group are development partners based in Atlanta, Georgia, and we are working on a project on East Lansing Road near the existing Costco. And based on our evaluation of the trade area, we feel that there is a need for Class A self-storage in the market. Currently, it's our understanding that the East Lansing zoning code does not allow for self-storage as a permitted use, and we're asking that the City Council consider a revision to the code, possibly through a text amendment, to allow for self-storage within the city limits of East Lansing. We have done a thorough evaluation of the market, and based on our experience of more than 50 projects across the country, we feel that this market is significantly underserved for self-storage, and would like to pursue a high-quality project on the parcel that is surrounding or between the existing Rite Aid and Costco. So in essence, that's our request. So we would like that consideration from City Council.
Thank you.
We have one more caller on the line. Caller from Helping Women, period. You are now welcome to address the council.
Good evening, City Council. I appreciate, I'm just wanted to say thank you so much for considering the menstrual health and menstrual product ordinance for later on this afternoon. And I just really appreciate East Lansing looking at being an inclusive community. And that's it. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Those are all of the callers we have on the line.
Thank you. Next up, look for communication from council. Councilperson Brookover.
Nothing. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilperson Watson.
The person that just called in, do we have that communication?
Self-storage.
Yeah.
I think it's in the packet. Is that correct?
To council before 4 p.m.
Yeah, it kind of sounded like he sent it just to one person, though.
I think we also forwarded it to council. Didn't we forward this to council in advance on Friday with information about it, I think? Okay, we can get back to you and check.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to say hello, everyone, and happy Black History Month. Since my election, I haven't scheduled any in-person specific dates for meeting with people, but I just wanted to let everyone know, while my schedule is inconsistent, I do meet with people who email me, give me phone calls, I take calls, I do lunches, I do whatever is convenient for that people or that group of people. So I just wanted to let you all know that I don't have specific times, but I am out here, I'm listening, and I love what I learn when I speak with you all. Thank you.
Councilperson Babcock.
Thank you. We had 13 inches of snow last week, which was a lot. And I'd like to thank our DPW for its incredible work on the roads. Even today, we had some plows going through because, you know, the snow melts, it blows. However, some of us have not been so good about our own sidewalks, and I would include myself in that, except I had the much better half out there. But so he will be rolling his eyes when I get home. But the great thing about East Lansing is that it's such a walkable community. Kids walk to school, we walk to see our neighbors, we walk downtown, and the snow, again, it continues to blow and drift onto the sidewalks, and some folks didn't, for any number of reasons, didn't clear their sidewalks right away. I would ask that people keep that in mind, especially we are a sort of older community, and while the kids seem to just bounce back whenever they hit the snow, those of us with bifocals, we don't really see the snow as well, and it takes us a little longer to get off the ground, and it's not such a great thing. I'd also like to say a few words commemorating a dear, dear friend, Dr. Joan Jackson Johnson, who was a huge part of this community and all of Ingham County. She passed a week ago. Dr. J was a close personal friend to generations of my family. There are so many things that could be said about her, but in a nutshell, she was a PhD who knew where the homeless encampments were and knew those individuals by name and their individual needs. And all of us give. At times we give, we care about people. But I've never seen anyone with such a universal knowledge of need and compassion, and who so devoted her life to it. Shortly, a few days after she died, we had that huge snowstorm, and I was thinking, you know, there are people out there in what they call the back 40 tonight, and Dr. J would know where they were, who they were, and how to get to them, while the rest of us were in our homes. She taught me how to think about how to give to someone, because it's one thing to give to people who are in economic distress who might live in a home. For instance, you can give them a large bottle of shampoo, but if you have someone who's transient and on the streets, then cadge those little bottles from the hotel. She taught me to think through things that way, and she taught me really to always realize the value and humanity of people I was speaking with, and that our needs are universal, but in many ways individual. So it will be a huge loss to this community, and most of the people who most benefited from her incredible, selfless life won't get the opportunity to say it publicly. So I will say that she will be greatly missed.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Gregg?
Yes, unfortunately, I have another death to acknowledge. I wanted to make sure that we acknowledge the passing of a very dedicated public servant in East Lansing. We suddenly and tragically lost Kathy Boyle earlier this week, who was a former council member. She was appointed to fill a vacancy and has served on our planning commission for an extremely long time, where she was a very thoughtful voice and really provided feedback that definitely improved the projects coming through that commission. So she also was a very strong voice on our Police Oversight Study Committee. So the advancements that we have made in that area as well, we owe to Kathy. And I personally owe her a debt of inspiration. I definitely thought of her as a mentor. I don't know if she knows that I thought of her as a mentor, and I probably should have mentioned it. I thought that I had more time. But anyway, before I get too emotional, I'll just acknowledge her great service to this community and the hole that is left with her passing.
I want to acknowledge an additional passing of the father of Chief Telefero. Chief, to me, is kind of like my title when you're chief forever in my life. Like, people call me coach. No matter when they're like 30 years old, they still call me coach. It's weird. To me, he's always chief. He was a friend long before I really knew him in this capacity as chief through the MLK Commission, and a lot of years working together and doing different projects and just getting to know him as a person, and our common love for football, and just a big loss for their family. And it just kind of seems like a theme. I just wanted to acknowledge that. And secondly, I just want to thank all of our departments and works and everyone else for tackling the first snow. I know the first snow was the toughest. The first real one, I was looking around for stuff for my snowblower and just where are the gloves at and all kinds of stuff, because we hadn't dealt with it quite yet. So I'm thankful for the work that they did and the rapid response and working through the night, and at least getting us to a reasonable level to where we could move around the city and not causing us to be totally snowbound, because it was there and potentially to happen. I haven't seen a lot of snow in a long time, it felt like. So that was a real snow. So thank you to the city, all the workers, and everyone who responded. And I got some special thanks to a lot of individuals who didn't think their trash was going to be picked up, and people were out picking up the trash in the midst of slippery streets and storms and everything else. People were surprised. People were like, I didn't know my trash was even going to get picked up. I just happened to put it out, and it got picked up. So there were people just very impressed with that. And that's one of the overwhelming responses were positive to everything that happened around the storm and the response to it. So thank you guys for all the work and all the departments that kept things going. That's it from me. Next up, City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. So, in response to Council's question, the letter from regarding the self-storage was sent to Mr. Peter Menser, addressed to Mr. Menser, so it wasn't put on the council packet, but it was sent to council with some explanation on January 28th. So you should have received it in your emails on that date. The letter from the entity is attached with their request, and then a little bit of analysis from Mr. Menser. So, if you have any questions about that. And then we can add it to the packet as well now that it's come to council's attention, so that's fine as well. I also wanted to mention that our future commission meetings will be starting up as normal on February 14th. So we took a pause because of the Omicron virus spread. We've been tracking that data closely and see now that it is receding. It's not like we're sort of completely past it, but it certainly is a little bit better situation than we were 3 and 4 weeks ago. So at this point, I would expect that we'll be back to normal operations on the 14th, meaning boards and commission meetings will be happening in person as they were normally scheduled. I also want to mention about the passing of Kathy Boyle. It was a big surprise to me. Kathy, I would consider her not only a professional colleague, but a friend. Last time I got to see her, she took me to lunch back in September or in October, and went to one of our favorite places, Crunchies, and had a nice time, and always willing to just have a kind word for people. She wanted to thank me for the work I'm doing, and I always want to thank her for all the work she does. She served on council, she served on planning commission, she served on police oversight, she served on, I believe, age-friendly communities. She also served on the building board, the building authority as well. So certainly someone who was always willing to step up and do something for the community, and she really was a great person and will be sorely missed. So I also offer my condolences to her husband, Brendan, who I'm sure is feeling a tremendous loss. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2.5, City Attorney's Report.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Nice to see you virtually. I
Laura,
wanted
we
to
can't hear
briefly
you.
comment. Oh, okay. I did a sound check. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, great. Now I can hear myself echoing. So I wanted to briefly comment. It's been in the news that the Attorney General issued an opinion last week regarding the Open Meetings Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act. And the gist of that opinion, which is not binding on the city, but persuasive authority, is that if you have a member of a public body with a disability who requests remote meeting attendance as an accommodation for that disability, then it may be appropriate to allow remote attendance for that member, even though it would not otherwise be permitted under the Open Meetings Act. It is very much a case-by-case, fact-specific type of analysis, as it is for any request for accommodations under the ADA, in terms of looking at whether the accommodation is reasonable. And of course, the disability would be related to meeting attendance. So it's something to be aware of. Our firm is releasing, I don't think it went out quite yet today, but a client communication tomorrow with a longer analysis of that. But I just want to make the city aware of that in case there is a request for an accommodation from a member of a public body. And that's all that I have to report tonight.
Thank you. Next, I'll look to approve the consent agenda.
Consent agenda to council's consideration. Item 3.1, approve the following appointments or reappointments to boards or commissions. A, Christine Root to the Independent Police Oversight Commission for a partial term ending December 31st, 2022. B, Morgan Collins to the University Student Commission for a partial term ending September 30th, 2022. C, Alicia Southern to the Downtown Management Board for a full term ending February 7th, 2026. 3.2 was moved to the business agenda. 3.3, approve a contract change order with Tetra Tech in the amount of $43,700 to prepare a drinking water state revolving fund project plan to fund the water meter and reading system infrastructure replacement project and authorize the city manager to sign. Those are all the items on the consent agenda for council's consideration.
Look for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Moved by Councilperson Babcock,
Second.
second by Mayor Pro Tem Craig. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. On to the item number 4, the business agenda. The new item 4.1, approval resolution acknowledging Black History Month. I was looking to hear from DE&I Director Elaine Hardy. Your choice.
Whichever you're more comfortable at.
I don't know that I'm going to be more comfortable in either space, but I think I'll stand. Sometimes
Just-
when I sit down, I don't think.
I'll acknowledge that I put you on the spot with this, so I'm sorry.
Sometimes when I sit down, I don't think so well. Right? Thank you for the opportunity to acknowledge the resolution acknowledging Black History Month and to have an opportunity to come before you on this really very special month. What I think I'd like to do, Mayor, if you would allow me the privilege, is to read our resolution, because I think that included in this resolution is some really interesting history about East Lansing and really puts into context the why we celebrate Black History Month. Whereas Africans were first brought involuntarily to the shores of the American colonies as early as the 17th century, and whereas Black Americans suffered enslavement and subsequently faced the horrors of lynching, violent mobs, economic enslavement, forced poverty, Jim Crow, domestic terror, segregation, mass incarceration, and denial of the basic and fundamental rights of citizenship. And whereas in 2022, the vestiges of these injustices and inequalities remain evident in the society. And whereas in the face of these atrocities, Black Americans have distinguished themselves with a commitment to the noble ideals on which the United States was founded, and have fought courageously for the rights and freedom of Black Americans and others. And whereas Black History Month, a federally recognized nationwide celebration that calls on all Americans to reflect on the significant roles that Black Americans have played in shaping U.S. history and the American experience. And whereas Carter G. Woodson, son of former slaves, spent his childhood working in coal mines and quarries, he received his education during the 4-month term that was customary for Black schools at the time. And whereas at age 19, having taught himself English fundamentals and arithmetic, Woodson entered high school, where he completed a 4-year curriculum in 2 years. He went on to earn his master's degree in history from the University of Chicago, and later earned a doctorate from Harvard. And whereas Dr. Woodson was concerned that history textbooks generally ignored America's Black population and often presented distorted or false narratives about their contributions and experiences, he wrote Black Americans into the nation's history. Unfortunately, an accurate and expansive history of Black Americans is still not told in many school districts across the country, and forces are working to ban these teachings in this current day. And whereas he established the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History and founded the group's publication, the Journal of Negro History. And whereas in 1926, Woodson developed Negro History Week. He believed the achievements of the Negro properly set forth will crown him as a factor in early human progress and a maker of modern civilization. And whereas Dr. G. Woodson also stated, we have a wonderful history behind us. If you are unable to demonstrate to the world that you have the record, the world will say to you, you are not worthy to enjoy the blessings of democracy or anything else. And whereas, excuse me, and whereas the second week of February was chosen as it marks the birthdays of 2 men who greatly influenced the Black American experience in this country, Frederick Douglass, who escaped slavery and became an abolitionist and civil rights leader, though his birth date isn't known. He celebrated it on February 14th. Abraham Lincoln, who signed the Emancipation Proclamation, which abolished slavery in American Confederate states. He was born on February 12th. And whereas for his work, Dr. Carter G. Woodson has been called the father of Black history. And whereas in 1976, President Gerald Ford officially recognized Black History Month, calling on all Americans to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. And whereas Black Americans worked against racism to achieve success and make significant contributions to the economic, educational, political, artistic, athletic, literary, scientific, and technological advancements, often never receiving the recognition those individuals deserved, and yet paved the way for future generations to succeed. And whereas on November 4th, 2008, the people of the United States elected Barack Obama, an African-American man, as President of the United States. And whereas in June of 2020, the East Lansing City Council appointed the first Black man, Ron Bacon, to serve on City Council in its 120th year history, and the first Black woman, Dana Watson, to serve since the 1970s. And whereas on November 3rd, 2020, the people of the United States elected Kamala D. Harris, a Black woman, as Vice President of the United States. And whereas on November 24th, 2020, the East Lansing City Council declared racism a public health crisis. And whereas on September 23rd, 2021, the city of East Lansing dedicated the first state historic marker to Robert L. Greene, a Black man who fought housing discrimination and in 1964 was the first Black person to purchase a home outright in the city of East Lansing. And whereas on October 19th, 2021, the East Lansing City Council passed Ordinance 1508 banning hair-based discrimination in the city of East Lansing. And whereas on November 2nd, 2021, the people of East Lansing elected the first Black woman, Dana Watson, to serve on East Lansing City Council. And whereas on that same date elected its first Black man to serve on East Lansing City Council. And whereas on November 9th, 2021, the East Lansing City Council, by unanimous vote, appointed Ron Bacon to serve as the city's first Black mayor, who remarked, the historical significance of my election as the first Black man to serve in this capacity is not lost on me. I stand on the shoulders of many inspiring community and civil rights leaders who came before me, and I will do my best to make them and this community proud. And whereas the city of East Lansing was among the first municipalities in the nation to recognize Martin Luther King Jr. Day as a holiday in advance of federal legislation, and whereas the city of East Lansing acknowledges that all people are the recipients of the wealth of history and culture contributed by Black Americans, now therefore be it resolved that the city of East Lansing acknowledges the significance of Black History Month as an important opportunity to commemorate the tremendous contributions of Black Americans to the history of East Lansing and the United States, and recognizes the importance of Black History Month as an opportunity to reflect on the complex history of the nation. And that is the resolution that is before you to pass, sir.
Thank you. And I should have put you last. That was so powerful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I don't have anything to add.
Yeah. I just want to acknowledge the resolution and the really careful handling of that history. I was just having conversations today, and I was asking you to do something because just where we are as a nation today, asking that we continue to respond and react to the elements of discrimination that still exist today. I think as any minority or minority group would fear at this point, many elements of that history are repeating themselves again. So, I would just ask that we continue to not react, but respond to what's going on as a nation, kind of wake ourselves up a little bit and get to work. Because a lot of our institutions and hard-fought, blood-fought things that we fought for as a nation and as a people are being lost and slowly taken away. And I always want to remind people, everything that happened throughout history was legal. That's the one thing that seems lost on people. I think people consider these were bad actors, these were bad individuals, this was just a bad town. These were laws. Everything that occurred was a law, and we're seeing a re-entrenchment of laws taking place in America. That should frighten everyone. Anyone who felt any anxiety or trepidation listening to that should transfer that energy to fighting the laws and the things that are taking place again in America. That's my ask for us as a city. We have a strong history of being first, but we need to move now and act on all these issues, voting and all the other rights that are under assault in America, and not forget that everything that happened in America across history was legal. So don't ever forget that. Councilperson Babcock.
Respectfully, I think there was one thing that at least I didn't hear in the resolution, which was the appointment of our DEI director, who has been our chief educator, our moral compass, and a force of nature and good and education, and I thank you so very much. And also, again, to my history-making colleagues, I am always so glad to call you Mr. Mayor and Madam History Maker, as I like to call Councilmember Watson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no further comments. I'll look for a motion to approve.
I would like to make a motion to approve the resolution acknowledging Black History Month.
Look for a second.
I will gladly second.
I'd like to just make a friendly amendment, given the historical significance of this. In the 7th paragraph down, there's a typo in the first word. If we could just correct that before this is formally published, because of the significance.
Yes.
So I'd move for an amendment of the motion if it's acceptable.
That's to you?
Yes.
And yes? I'll look for a vote on the approved motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. On to the new item 4.2, consideration of policy resolution 2022-3, an ordinance number 1513, an ordinance to amend Chapter 22 of the City Code to add a new Article 5 requiring free sanitary products in city-owned public restrooms.
I move that we approve ordinance, policy resolution 2022-3, and ordinance number 1513, an ordinance to amend Chapter 22 of the City Code to add a new Article 5 requiring free sanitary products in city-owned public restrooms, assuming the city attorney thinks that's the appropriate way to proceed with the motion.
Correct, a motion to approve the resolution which adopts the ordinance. I think you've got it covered there.
Look for a second.
Second.
Moved by Councilperson Brookover, second by Councilperson Watson. Comments?
I do have a comment before we vote on this. I was not at the meeting where we initially discussed this. I was listening in and was pleased to hear the general enthusiasm from my colleagues on approving this, and I expect based on that we will probably not see any opposition to this. Menstruation is kind of one of the last taboos that's still standing in terms of true equality, in terms of men and women and other menstruating people as they move through this society. And I'm hoping that we're not the only municipality that has tackled this issue. This resolution significantly only applies to public-owned restrooms. I'm hoping that other businesses in our community will take this as a call to action and decide to address this within their own facilities. And I hope that we see similar action from other cities as we kind of chip away at that last taboo of menstruation and as we move towards equality. So I will be voting yes. Delighted to do so.
Councilperson Babcock?
When we discussed this earlier, I made a mistake. I referred to 52% of the population, and I actually knew that women made up more than 51%, but it's 51.1, and I love this community and its devotion to data and correction. So I do stand corrected. I was a little overly optimistic, but thank you. 51.1% of the population.
Any additional comments? I'll make a quick one. I think this feeds right into our theme. I think the most important thing around this is this dignity. It provides a great deal of dignity to do what's right, and this just feels right. And I'll leave it at that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. On to the new item 4.3, consideration of city attorney selection. I'll kind of get the ball rolling here. We have now had an opportunity to get a look at the various terms kind of in a consolidated way from the financial perspective, as well as begin to receiving references and that type of thing. If you hear from council perspective on how you'd like to proceed, then I'll give you my perspective. So who's up?
I'm happy to make a motion for the prosecution, if we want to jump right into that.
I definitely was going to say I think choosing the prosecution piece might be easier, and to begin with that discussion or recommendation.
All right. From that perspective, let's separate them, and we'll do that. We'll tackle one bite at a time. Go ahead, Councilperson Babcock.
Thank you. I move that the city hire Robert Easterly to act as city attorney for prosecution for the purposes of crimes in 54B District Court. And with specific terms to be negotiated, he's given us two options. One would be a contract at a flat fee of $360,000 a year, and he's given us another option, which would be more of an hourly rate.
I'll ask the city attorney, as far as with the negotiation, does that need to be contingent
Yeah.
upon terms?
I think we could,
What's the language?
we could say something like contingent upon accepted contract. I guess I'm looking to you, Mr. Human Resources.
You could also just say to have someone go negotiate it and then bring it back for approval
For
by
final
council.
approval.
So, yeah, this is just, I guess, the first step, which is
To
that,
move to-
yeah, selecting them for further negotiation, to select them for negotiation of the possible terms, and then bring the proposed
Thank you.
contract back for approval.
Thank you. I'd like to amend my amendment, amend my motion, and say thank you to the city manager and Councilmember Gregg. We're kind of a team up here fielding stuff up and down the...
So just to be clear, Councilmember Babcock, your motion is to recommend that the city move forward with contract negotiations for Robert Easterly in order to bring back to this body a contract for our consideration.
Correct. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you.
City manager?
Clarify as to who you want to negotiate, if it's council members, or if it's me, or a combination, or whatever, or an assistant anyway.
Do we have specific council members engaged last time? Was it up to a
Last
couple?
time it was myself and Councilmember Watson. I think what I learned through that experience, and I will not speak for Councilmember Watson, she might have felt much more confident with it than I did, but my thought is that I am not adept in contract negotiation, and that I would be delighted to pass my responsibility in that off to Mr. Lahanas, since the final draft would be coming back to us for our approval anyway. So, there's no chance of us approving a contract that we didn't approve of, and his experience in that regard is far greater than mine.
Yeah, Mr. Lahanas, I think you're doing a good job with talking to us about the firms, and I think it would be great if you went back into negotiation. I thought it was fit that we did it the second time around for renegotiation, but for this part, I think you've been doing a good job, and yeah, I wouldn't want to regret that.
Did we have a second on that motion? With the amended motion?
I'll second.
Motion moved by Councilperson Babcock, second by Mayor Pro Tem Gregg. All in favor?
Well, hang on. I'd like to have some discussion.
Oh, discussion. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
First of all, I'd like to indicate that it's not exactly clear to me, but I think it's clear that if Mr. Easterly, who's a good attorney, gets the contract, then there may be some affiliation with the Graywall Law Firm. And I just want to disclose that one of the primary partners at the Graywall Law Firm is David Middleman, who's been a longtime friend and excellent attorney, one of the best attorneys in the state, and he contributed $1,000 to my campaign. So I want to say that publicly. It's a public record, but in any event. And then secondly, I'm going to oppose this motion, not because I have anything to say negatively about Mr. Easterly. I just think that on balance, well, let me say it this way. I was gratified when I saw the bids and the law firms that submitted to us. I was really concerned after the last 16 months that we were going to sort of be the poor child in mid-Michigan in terms of being able to get city attorney services. And I just think all of the people that bid are quality law firms, including Mr. Easterly. I just happen to think, on balance, after looking at all the bids and stuff, I just think it's more efficient to have one law firm handle all of the city business, and I think that is very possible to be done in this situation. I also understand that all of you have worked with Mr. Easterly and like him and appreciate him, and so this is not anything negative about him. I just think that it's more efficient to have one law firm do everything, especially given the bids that came in. So.
Yeah, I'll kind of speak to that question. I would have presumed the same thing before doing this a year ago, that one firm in the efficiency of working with one firm, but I did feel a little bit through that process that it led to some things outside of just law, and then sometimes some firm politics and other things bleeding into city business that were really outside of the needs of a municipality. I thought that kind of at times complicated some of the work that we were doing. That's just my personal opinion. So I, at this point, having gone through this process again, I actually like the roles separated as first initiated by Councilperson Babcock, and I thought kind of the combination last time left us a little vulnerable with not enough differentiation and separation of the roles. Actually, that was just my personal opinion with how things went for that year. And I'll kind of leave that right there.
I just wanted to piggyback on Councilperson Brookover's comment. Mr. Middleman also contributed to my campaign, although that seems like ancient history, frankly. Like, what was that, 30 years ago? I don't know. How long have we been doing this? Anyway.
2 lifetimes.
Well, it was one pandemic ago, that's
Yeah,
for
one
sure.
pandemic ago, however long we calculate that time.
Councilperson Babcock?
I also count Mr. Middleman among a friend and an attorney I would go to court to watch, and he did also donate to my 2019 campaign.
This
Thank
feels
you.
like
I forgot.
this feels like a dating show. I didn't personally know Mr. Middleman, but he also contributed to my campaign in 2021. So, but I didn't know him personally.
Well, I do not have the same to say, but I do want to say that I've enjoyed what Easterly has brought to the table and what we've been able to begin discussions on and hopefully go forward on. I was glad that there were some rate changes with what he had initially sent to us, because that helps with us being watchful of the city's budget and city dollars. But I will be voting yes. He's been with us for a little bit now. He's gotten familiar with things in ways that others have not. And then also, like I said, we had some great discussions and initial discussions about some needed changes as far as things go in the city of East Lansing. And I look forward to working more with him on that.
Further questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. So kind of separated this second half. Now we're moving on to city attorney and the city attorney process. I'll look for comments first and I'll weigh in.
I do have a first choice, which I'm happy to share. This is where it gets awkward having these discussions in public, but I think I agree with Mr. Brookover. The candidates that put their proposals for this were all quite strong. This is a very difficult thinning process, because I think that there's at least 4, possibly more people that would be great in this role, or firms that would be great in this role. I also am cognizant of the fact that our current city attorney, Ms. Genovich, is listening in, and I want to say that I've been very pleased with their services as well. So there's a lot of great attorneys in Michigan. I think my first choice would be Gianmarco, Mullins, and Horton, just based on their range of experience. And then I do have I can get deeper into my second and third choices if people want to go that way. I don't know exactly how we want to discuss this.
I'm interested in hearing your second.
Yeah.
My second would be Mr. Terry from Miller Johnson.
Did you have a specific rationale on that one that you were?
I was impressed with, in terms of Mr. Cherry or in terms of Gianmarco.
Your second.
I thought his experience, especially having worked in a larger municipality, having done so much work in Chicago, was relevant and exciting. I liked the personal relationship that we've been able to build with our attorney, our individual named attorney from Foster and Swift, and I thought that Mr. Cherry would fit in well in terms of just being a member of the team. Also seemed to have a strong idea about reforms that we were making, and I think that it's good to have somebody that's on board with that. I think the mark against him, honestly, is just his hourly rate is so much higher than some of the other options, so.
I move we authorize the city manager to enter into negotiations with the Gianmarco Law Firm for the remainder of attorney services and bring us back, I guess, a proposed contract after such negotiations for us to consider. And as part of it, I just want to indicate I'm assuming that whatever firm we choose would take over or would assume what I would call the regular city attorney role, but I'm also assuming, given some of the current issues before us in terms of litigation, we'll continue with Foster Swift. I don't want to be switching law firms on some of the litigation that Foster Swift's handling right now, so I just want to make that clear. But my motion is to regard, as I stated, to authorize the city manager to enter into negotiations for a possible contract for legal services with the Gianmarco Law Firm.
I'll second that motion.
I wasn't ready for that, but I guess we can still discuss our ones and our twos.
Well, and Dana, I don't have any, I wasn't ready for it either. I didn't think we were going to do any of this tonight, so I'm happy if you think that we need some more time. I'm happy to withdraw the motion, and we can discuss it at the next meeting. So I don't want to, I'm not trying to push anything through here, and I understand perfectly what you're saying because I wasn't there yet either tonight, so.
Go ahead, Councilperson Watson.
Yeah. So I wasn't able to attend the discussion that we had about the attorneys, and my top pick is Gruwall, and I want to be able to put that out there and say it aloud to council in case it's anybody else's top pick. What I appreciated about this firm was they came and everybody showed up. You got to see everybody that we might possibly be working with. And also, I know that they didn't have that experience like other people did as far as like working with cities and counties and townships. However, they came and cited our charter. Like, they did their research and they did their diligence, and I thought that was pretty cool. I've also appreciated the firms that are more local for us. My second pick is GMH. I've often referred to them as the attorneys that are downtown because they talked about their moving to a new location downtown, and that helps me remember them. But also, I think it's helpful to have attorneys that are close to us. And I considered prices as well. And so Gruwall was my top pick, and GMH would be my second pick. And I wanted to put it out there in case anybody else was feeling as strongly about Gruwall.
Councilperson Babcock?
I was impressed with Graywall. They did show up with a charter, which no one else did, and they struck me as hard workers and ready to learn. And they came in a very close third. GMH and Miller Johnson came out first for me because of its very long experience in municipal law. And, but, you know, Graywall has fantastic people. They are hard workers. They are learners, and that that was meaningful to me because at a certain point in all of our lives, we think we know pretty much all there is to know, and there's real value in people who are learning and eager to learn. However, I thought Mr. Cherry's experience with the city of Kalamazoo was exemplary, and Miller Johnson has a long history. GMH does too, really. It's an embarrassment of riches.
All right. This got slightly clearer. Councilperson Brookover, would you like to elaborate on any other rationales for any other participants in this process?
I'm sorry,
And do you have,
elaborate on what?
did you have any other people that you had kind of in your process and how you?
Yeah, I already said the last meeting what my 3 were, so that's on the record. I mean, it's,
Well, now that you've seen terms and been able to maybe narrow the field, did terms make any difference?
no, I'd still be with the same 3. I mean, I think the way I stated it was Gianmarco and Miller Johnson because of Mr. Cherry, and I think vast experience. And then, well, really, I should say probably those 2 at this point. Yeah. And can I just add some things, some thoughts? I don't know, I respect Councilperson Watson's thinking on this in terms of should we proceed tonight or not proceed tonight. I'm willing to withdraw the motion if anybody wants me to. So I have some knowledge of all these firms. They're all excellent firms, and that's why I was really gratified when we got these bids. But a couple of things stood out for me with regard to Gianmarco. First of all, I was initially concerned about them because one of their partners was on the Board of Trustees of Michigan State University, but he left the firm in 2018. Secondly, I know people at this firm, not closely, but I also know other people at this firm by reputation. I've done some of my own due diligence. I believe that their bid is an honest bid. I think you all know I try to run a business, and I think I know what hourly rates are or aren't, and I know some of the techniques that are used in terms of hourly rates. But from all of my conversations with people, I think the rate that's quoted is going to be an honest rate, and frankly, I think we have the ability to check on that anyway. And I think the other thing that's very important, Ms. Watson hit on this, I'm not sure she quite understood the significance of it, but Gianmarco, first of all, Gianmarco has a statewide presence in municipal law. I'm conscious of the fact that Ms. Babcock was concerned about their coverage, but I with all due respect, I don't really think that's a problem because they came in here with, I thought, a gangbuster bunch of people. The woman who was willing to do the prosecution stuff has tons of experience, and their move into Lansing and mid-Michigan, I believe, this is my own opinion, is a very conscious decision on their part to establish a bigger statewide presence. Don't get me wrong, I mean, their school district people do stuff all over the state and are very well thought of. And I suspect, I don't know, but I suspect what we're seeing in the bidding is them wanting our business. I mean, all the firms want our business, but that's a really good bid. They have an office in town. They're going to have people here. I know they're going to have school district lawyers here because they cover different districts. For instance, Mr. Mullins is representing Grand Ledge through the insurance company on some issues over there. So I just think the combination of variables with them is very, very good. If Miller Johnson had come in at a bid at that level, I would have been much in favor of them. I was very impressed with Mr. Cherry, and he'd be a great city attorney for us in both roles, but I already lost that argument. So I hesitate. I don't want to be a cheerleader, okay? I'm just trying to give you the benefit of some of my thinking.
Cheerleading is my job, George.
I
Yep.
got that.
Okay.
But I did want you to know that I've asked some questions of some people. None of the people at that law firm are my close friends, but I've been aware of people at that firm for 20 years or more. I was astonished when they wanted to bid on this work, and I was astonished when they bid it at $135 an hour. So those are my thoughts. I don't know, Mayor, if that's what you wanted me to do or not.
That was it. Councilperson Babcock?
I I would like to say I thought the woman doing the prosecution was superb. We've both dealt with criminal courts, and you think you've got a 5-minute matter at 8:35 a.m., and at 3:30 they call your case. So, I mean, it's just the logistics between Southgate and East Lansing. I did think she was an excellent attorney, and I'm sure she could have worked that out. So thank you. Just wanted to clarify that.
Councilperson Watson.
I just want to say I appreciate the discussion, and apologies for the mispronunciation, Graywall. And I'm listening and hearing everyone, and I am ready to move forward with Councilmember Brookover's. Motion. Thank you. I knew it wasn't a resolution.
I don't have anything else to say.
I don't either, technically. Yeah, I just want to say first and foremost, I appreciate all the work that went into all these proposals from all the law firms. I know the amount of just sheer work that went into this, and I actually appreciate even some of the firms who, upon negotiating on price and other things, didn't just fold and come back with some number that was unrealistic for their terms or the types of attorneys that we're going to have, because I really wanted them to compare apples to apples. If we're going to have who they're going to put in these seats, and that they explained it, and you know, if really like what Councilperson Brookover said, you know, the GMH really came after it on price, frankly, which is important, and I can't particularly in this seat, I can't minimize that. We owe it, that due diligence and that respect for price and cost to the people, our constituents, and all those things out there. We must give strong consideration to price, and if we're comparing apples to apples, and I think each firm attempted to do that and came back with numbers that they could stomach, frankly, probably some of them. So based upon that, I'm comfortable moving forward with negotiations with GMH. And if there's no further comment, I'll look for a vote on that motion, original motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And with that, we are adjourned.